program will begin shortly. Launch sequence. Activate. Warning, the following content is not politically correct. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the channel today, everyone. I'm your host, Sarah Higdon. This is Transform to Freedom. So, big week. Just saw today, big news, kind of going back to what we talked a little bit about last week. So we talked last week about the new Title IX rules and the Biden administration kind of unilaterally creating these new Title IX rules that didn't explicitly allow males and female sports, but it did classify gender identity as a protected category. So it's not based on sex anymore, which means it's not based on biological fact, which means it's not based on anything. So happened quickly, and so now we know the people over at Defending Ed, the International Women's Forum, Speech First in Alabama, my home state of Georgia, Florida, and South Carolina. And just before I went on air, I saw Texas even filed their own lawsuit against the Biden administration to not implement Title IX. It says the role of the cabinet agencies is to interpret laws as written by Congress, not redefine the meaning of words to suit a fringe group of activists. This is absolutely right. So when you actually see, like, if you look across the country when they're implementing in different states the Women's Bill of Rights and stuff like that, for example, you see that those bills are basically just defining, so setting in stone the definition of a woman as an adult human female, and the definition of male as an adult human male. So any of the language that's written in any other law that uses man or woman, then it classifies that, and so it takes it so it's not based off gender identity, it's based off of sex. So the words man and woman are based off of sex in laws in those states, which makes sense, right? If you have a law, you're gonna want it to, like, if it's based off gender identity doesn't have a definition. It doesn't have anything, it's based in postmodernism, so there's no actual truth there going on. So you have to get down, so if a law then says man or woman and it's not defined, then it really doesn't mean anything. It's not based if it's not based on sex. Sex is an absolute truth, biological fact, and good on them. I'm glad this is moving forward so quickly, because it needs to happen. Let's see, what is this? It's yeah, so definitely go look at that. That's just, again, that's from we talked about that last week, so you can go look at the new changes on Title IX that we discussed last week. You can go to defendinged.org and go check out what the lawsuit's all about. They have it. The link is right here in Nikki Neely's post, which kind of rolls into this next topic. And look, I wasn't going to talk about this other than I saw this picture that it's blurred out. But this picture, there's a picture that's going around the internet, popped up last night, that I started seeing, and you'll see it here, but it's blurred out, which is good, because I wasn't going to mention this, but this is the hazards of artificial intelligence. Okay, so here's the picture. It is Congresswoman AOC and Congresswoman Lauren Boebert together wearing lingerie. Now, I would beg to say, and I'm not going to show the actual picture, because I do think that this actually could borderline on illegal. I don't know about illegal in the sense of, the law cracking down on it. It could be seen as something like these women did not consent to having a picture taken with their clothes off, right? This is a AI generated salacious picture that they never consented to. So when you look at stuff like this, you have to understand that people own, like, your face, your image is your property. It's your private property. It's kind of like owning a copyright. You own a copyright on your face and on your image and likeness. We know that just recently George Carlin, actually, his estate won a lawsuit based off of an AI generated comedy special that would have been him, because it was his name and likeness, and the estate owns basically the copyright to that. They own that intellectual property. And see, and so this is where AI is going to get, it's really starting to expose people's actual moral values. And honestly, I agree with I can't believe I agree with Bryan Cranston on this. We should all be calling this out, because this is borderline illegal. Like I said, it could be viewed through the lens of revenge porn that these people never consented to even doing. But at the very least, it's immoral and degrading to the women. And it's interesting because he's the one that blurred the image. What's interesting is I had people. This came out last night, and I raised these concerns about this, last night. And people, this is where people in the liberty movement are starting to push me away, because they don't understand that, hurting people and taking their stuff also means taking their likeness and image and using this. Now, AI is going to be very different because they are very realistic. They almost flawless pictures of people, and they're used to parody that person. Whereas in the past, like, political cartoons were okay because they were obviously satire and they were hand drawn, and it was like a caricature of the person that they were doing. Some people brought up parody. So parodies are actually protected under the law, even like parody porn that they would do. If I guess there was somebody brought up Sarah Palin, they did parody porn, but the thing about it is it's an actual person doing the act. They just so happen to look like them and they're parodying them, but it's not meant to actually be that person. And so parody is very different from AI generated, which is what we're going to see. And I think you are going to see a lot of lawsuits. And what people don't realize is you can sue for anything. Right now, actually, I really do think the precedent is going to be set with Taylor Swift on this. Because if you remember, when the whole Taylor Swift blow up was happening not too long ago, there was then a AI generated, I think it was more like anime porn with Taylor Swift that went around the internet, and she is suing the creator on this. What's really interesting about this one that I've noticed, though, it's who I don't know who you would sue. I think you sue anybody that posts this picture without giving credit. So it's kind of funny because right now, if you don't know, on Twitter there is a huge issue with content theft. So people are stealing the content that other people make. That actually happened with this, and people that typically have cried about, have talked about, other people stealing their content. They actually stole this image and posted it themselves, and then and then they're gonna be the ones that if somebody sees that, people are gonna assume that they're the ones that created it. So at the end of the day, in all actuality, giving people credit who actually create their own content prevents you from being sued in these situations. I still think it's in bad taste, it's in poor taste, and it's disrespectful. I don't care what you think about these two women. It's very disrespectful to create salacious images, and I would say it borderlines illegal, at least in a civil sense, because you are stealing somebody's image and likeness and making salacious pictures of it. And like I said, we already have precedents on the books. Now the George Carlin case, they settled in court, so it didn't actually get a ruling, so it's not going to be a complete precedent. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a hard lawsuit to win when these things happen. And like I said, Taylor Swift is going to be the one to kind of set the biggest precedent if this even goes to court, which I assume it will, because Taylor Swift's a billionaire. Why would she even just sue for the money? She's not suing for the money. She's suing to make a point. She's suing to protect women. And that is really what we see in that regard, right? So, hey, James, welcome in. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Thank you for saying I'm amazing. Yeah, you're just catching up, seeing this stuff. But yeah, so and I agree. I think so. Brian actually went down and he said, I thought he said no. So basically, I really do think that Twitter is going to have to do something about this. I think Elon Musk needs to do something about this, because it's his platform, and free speech is not so this is not a free speech issue, because like I said, I think this does violate the law. So we need to really understand where the lines are in this, and there's going to be a lot of intricacies in the law on this. Like I said, I wasn't planning on talking about that, but I saw it was the blurred image came up, and in fear, it made me mad all over again, because last night I don't know if it was bots or if it was incels or what, but there was a lot of people that were showing their hand and trying to call me out for calling that out. And a lot of people actually deleted that picture last night that had posted it. So at the end of the day, I think I was right. So the other good news in the world of legislation is, I mean, if you didn't know, Tennessee is getting tons of wins right now. Tons of wins. So they passed a bill that basically says that it prevents outside influences from sterilizing children or getting children like life, basically gender care. So, or gender treatment, as we call it with post-millennial sex changes. So first off, this bill passed and says that they can't, it's a Class C felony if a person tries to assist a minor in going out of state, assist a minor that wants to go out of state and get these procedures, if they do that without parental permission. See, Tennessee can't pass a bill that says parents don't have the right to take their kids out of state to do this stuff. That would be that would be a violation of parental rights, and they're not the federal government, so parents could move to another state and they can't be charged in Tennessee, right? That's a difference between state rights have different states have different responsibilities that way. So Tennessee can't actually do that, but they can do that if the suit. So this suit actually can be brought forth by parents. So a parent or legal guardian of a minor adult. It says it doesn't apply to those who receive permission from the parent's legal guardian. And so really these laws are going to come up when a parent of a child goes to so if a parent of a child then goes to what is it? Press charges. God, why am I drawing a blank on that? So if a parent presses charges on the person that actually took their kid to do this, then that's when it would be that's when this would be basically charged. I also believe that it's anybody that's helping a minor that may be transitioning. So, like when I saw this come up yesterday, I said, "Is this going to actually is this going to prevent somebody like Eli Ehrlich from actually sending medication to minors in Tennessee?" I mean, Eli thinks that they can just stay in New York and nothing's going to happen and they can't be extradited, but that's just not the case. I mean, we are one country. So if it's a, federal law says that you can be charged on this and you can be extradited to the state if you committed a crime in that state. It's like, not if I get pulled, if I was doing something wrong in Texas and then I went home to Georgia, it's not like Texas can't come get me. Actually, leaving the state that you committed a crime in is an intrastate commerce and actually moves up to a federal level. So just moving on from there, the other thing that Tennessee did this week, and I don't have an article on it, but Tennessee passed a law. Actually, do I have a post on it? No, I don't. Tennessee passed a law that said that allows teachers, so I'm going to say it like this, allows teachers to be armed in classrooms. It doesn't force. See, this is the big thing when they were discussing the law in the chamber. They were like, "Oh, I don't trust." A lot of teachers were saying, I don't trust I don't want to carry a gun. And it's like, they're not forcing you to. You don't have to. It gives you the option to, if you're, and I don't think a teacher that's not trained should be carrying. But the thing is, people want to talk about protecting children. Well, guess what? Teachers are the first line of defense against a mass shooter. They talk about mass shootings, this stuff all the time, and it's like a gun-free zone. So a gun-free zone is the prime target of any mass shooter. Why? Because they know that it's the safe. It's literally, gun-free zones are the safest place for a mass shooting to take place. So you should, be allowed to defend yourself. And if it's like, we protect our children with armed. Why wouldn't you protect your children with armed guards, armed people? I mean, it was ruled in, I believe it was ruled in Florida. I mean, we've had multiple rulings that have said police's responsibility is not to protect you as an individual. It's not, the police cannot protect everybody. Basically, their job is to come and clean up the mess afterwards. It's up to you as an individual to defend yourself, which is why I advocate everybody knowing how to conceal carry a firearm and doing so if you are legally allowed to. Like we have constitutional carry here in Georgia, and most states are moving to constitutional carry. So, but yeah, so two big news stories out of Tennessee. Good news. So yeah, and it was funny when they were talking about the gun legislation, allowing teachers to be able to carry guns, and Democrats are getting upset about this. And I'm like, the only way that you would be upset is if you think that teachers are not trustworthy enough to carry a firearm, right? I mean, think about this. And if they're not trustworthy enough to carry a firearm, if they're that dangerous that they're not even allowed to carry a firearm, do you think they should be teaching your kids I really don't. I want the best and the brightest to be teaching children. And if you cannot be trusted to protect said children with a firearm, or if you're worried about people, if you're worried that teachers aren't trustworthy enough to carry a firearm, I don't think they should be teaching kids. But if you're a teacher and you don't feel comfortable carrying a gun, I don't think you should. I think you should train yourself, and if you want to carry, you should. It is what it is. Thank you, James. Thank you. James says, your background is awesome. Nice night sky with space galaxy feel, but also with the island feel with the trees. Yeah, I actually, and that's what's funny is my most of my house is set up like that. I like the galaxy theme that I got going on. I thought about kind of replacing it with more of a professional look, but I think adding the bookshelf in there, but keeping the color scheme and the themes and everything like that, it works. And it's funny you say island theme, because like my kitchen and other areas, like my living room and stuff, it's all kind of like island themed, island color. So the studio I consider is like the rave cave. And I have lights. I have like lights that go to the beat. Like I used to DJ, so I have a lot of different stuff in here, and to do that. And then upstairs is more chill vibe and island theme. So yeah. So thank you. Last one that I kind of want to talk about here for it's just kind of a quick story. I want to say one of the most effective people in all of politics actually has to be Kim Kardashian. And before you say, what are you talking about? Kim Kardashian does not care whether there's a Democrat or a Republican in office. She cares about criminal justice reform. She has chosen an issue, and she's just here to help and just wants to get things done. So she met with Kamala Harris recently at the White House. This was her first time since in this administration that she's been to the White House. Let me see where. So it was at a second chance event that they were doing at the White House, and that she was getting with where is this one? Who is Harris? 1 second. Oh, it's Kamala Harris. So they were doing a second chance event with 4 people who had been pardoned by the with her that had been pardoned by the Biden administration. And it says we have issued as an administration with President Biden's leadership more pardons than commutations than any recent administration at this point in their term. Which, if you don't know, the reason why Kim Kardashian was with the Trump White House when she worked with the Trump White House was to get Alice Johnson pardoned. And Trump did that in the last bit of his administration. And if you don't know Alice Johnson's story, it's absolutely insane. Which the interesting thing about this is that Kamala Harris would actually probably have put Alice Johnson in prison when she was the district attorney. So I actually met Alice Johnson at she was one of the speakers at an event that I went to that Free the People was sponsoring last October. If you remember, I was in Nashville, and I had some pictures and stuff from Nashville on my Instagram. Well, Alice Johnson was one of the speakers there, and she was talking about her story. Now, if you don't know, Alice Johnson, she was basically what you would, so a drug, like an operator. So she was a telephone operator. She never touched any drugs. She never sold any drugs. Basically, if a person wanted to buy drugs, they would call her, and she would then send like the dispatch of the actual drug dealer out to make the exchange. She got sentenced for a nonviolent crime, first time offense. She was sentenced to life in prison. She was going to spend the rest of her life. It was more than life. So she was going to spend the rest of her life in prison for a one-time mistake that really was a nonviolent offense. I believe it was only marijuana that they were selling anyways. So, absolutely wonderful woman. So glad the Trump administration did that. And this is the type of stuff that like Kim Kardashian's working on. And I just give her props that it doesn't matter who's in the White House. She's going to do what she's got to do to get things done. And people of all sides are willing to work with her. This is when I talk about, building single issue coalitions. Like as a libertarian myself, like in knowing that I receive attacks from both sides, knowing that single issue coalitions are how we're going to make things work, trying to get things done, working with all sorts of people that we may disagree with on plenty of different things. But that's how you get things done. And I like I said, I definitely applaud somebody like Kim Kardashian for doing that, and making the steps. It actually comes right after this news came right after Kamala Harris. I had the story pulled up, but I couldn't get it for some reason. Kamala Harris went back to saying, and she was saying that what was it? She said people should not be stuck in prison for smoking a plant, which is ironic because she put more people in prison as the district attorney of San Francisco than anybody else simply for smoking said plant. And if I had the video, it would be great right now, where if you remember in the 2020 debates, Tulsi Gabbard, you would have thought Tulsi Gabbard ruined Kamala Harris's political career, because it was the moment that Tulsi Gabbard called out that hypocrisy, Kamala Harris tanked in the polls and dropped out within a couple weeks, right? So then we all know what happened, and she was selected as the vice presidential pick. It's an interesting thing that happened, right? You completely fall off the polls and then you become the vice president. Wonder why. What's going on, the Todd? Yeah, things are popping. We're talking. All right. The big news story for the week, and you probably have to be living under a rock if you don't know what's going on, but protests have been popping up across the country. These encampments at college universities, we're calling them Gaza camps. And they've been popping, so it started at Columbia University, and then it kind of has started to spread across all different college campuses across the country, which has really raised some big questions, caused a big stir, and really you start to ask, where do you stand? Look, I may not agree at all with what the people that are protesting there agree on, but what I can say is I do believe that they have free speech. I stand on the side of free speech and freedom of what's the other one? Freedom to assemble. So well, let's just take a step back. So let's just talk about why they're doing this. Okay, basically they are pro Palestinian protest, or they're more anti-Israel than pro-Palestinian. What they're saying is they are trying to get their universities, because I've seen this question pop up. Why are they protesting their universities? The university itself doesn't run the government. They don't, do that stuff. But what they're basically doing is they are protesting the university to divest from any organization that works with Israel, supports Israel in any form or fashion. So, for example, I'm gonna talk about this in a second, but Washington U in St. Louis, Missouri, they were specifically targeting the support of Boeing. So apparently, and cutting all ties with the university and Boeing manufacturers, because Boeing creates aircraft for military operations that are being used in support of Israel's offensive in Gaza. So that's basically the gist of what's going on across different universities. Now, what's really interesting, we've been since the University of Texas, I think this happened on Wednesday, or this was Wednesday or Thursday of last week, the University of Texas, where basically police stormed in and started just arresting everybody, started arresting people, all that. And so Columbia University, so some of the other ones, like Columbia University, I actually went down to Emory on Friday to see if anything was going on. I didn't see, there was nothing going on when I went down to Emory around like 2:30 to see if I can get some footage, see what's going on down there, and cover it for the Post Millennial. Nothing was happening when I was there. I didn't think anything really kicked off until like 6 p.m. that evening. But it was shut down very quickly on Friday night. Also, ASU's was shut down very quickly too. But I think there's a difference. I think we need to acknowledge this difference in what universities we support different things with. So, University of Texas Austin is a public university. Your tax dollars go to the university if you live in Texas. University of Georgia, there was protests today. My tax dollars go to the University of Georgia. My tax dollars do not go to Emory. Emory is a private university. Columbia is a private university. A number of these other ones are private universities. I think the university itself has a right to restrict these types of protests on their campus if they are private, because it is their private property. They have a right to make the rules on said property, as long as they're not receiving government funds. Now, I think it goes to caveat that, though, I do think that it goes against the moral ethics of what the university system is supposed to do. Like, these universities have created this. They've created people like this that are going to protest. Like, these liberal institutions are now reaping what they sow in a lot of ways. But the thing is the university system is supposed to, create engaged thought and have these debates and these civil protests. And it's supposed to, shape and view and teach people how to think, not necessarily what to think, and how to have these civil dialogues and promote free speech. So I think that it would go against a private institution to do this, but at the same time, I think that they have a right to call the police for these people for students trespassing. Not so, I don't believe so, on a public university. So somewhere like UT, that's a public university, and it's really interesting. I don't know if it's in this article. Let me see. Trying to find, here it is. Greg Abbott. Now, this is what really kind of pissed me off when this happened, was Greg Abbott's statement about this. Because it wasn't, because, okay, I'll read his statement and I'll talk about it in a second. So, it says arrests being made right now and will continue until the crowd disperses. These protesters belong in jail. Anti-Semitism will not be tolerated in Texas, period. Students joining in hate-filled anti-Semitic protests any public college or university in Texas should be expelled. Interesting, right? Greg Abbott basically said the reason why these protesters should be arrested is because they're engaging in hate speech. Now, what's hate speech? I can't define hate speech. I don't think anybody can this is kind of one of the thing, like, what is a woman? Like, what actually is hate speech? Hate speech is up to whatever, it's up to interpretation of whoever's saying it. It's like, what is considered hateful? If it's whatever speech is considered hateful, who determines what is considered hateful? And so I think this is what's really interesting is, a lot of the same people who have always told leftists and told, the people that cry about, saying words are violence and everything like that. Greg Abbott is basically saying right here, words are violence, right? The thing about free speech is there to protect speech which you find unpalatable. So hate speech is protected speech. And basically, Greg Abbott saying these protesters belong in jail is basically saying, and then blaming it on hate speech, is basically saying he doesn't believe in free speech. He doesn't believe in the First Amendment. It's really interesting watching a lot of the people online talk about that and talk about this discourse. Because again, I may not agree with what these people are saying. I'm definitely not pro-Hamas. We've talked about my stance on Israel. I think that the U.S. needs to divest itself and not support any foreign wars. I've been talking about, not funding Israel for years now, long before October 7th. In fact, it was 2021 when I realized that we were fighting a proxy war between ourselves at that time, So in 2021, when the Biden administration took over, you realize that we gave Hamas COVID aid, and then they started sending, thousands of rockets into the Iron Dome defense system, which we also fund. It's considered a proxy war amongst ourselves. It's crazy. But to see the people who have been champions of free speech now saying stuff like this, this shows you that people don't actually have the values that they say they have. They only have those values when it's in their favor, right? Crazy stuff going on. But no, now to talk about, now, is it hate speech? It could be. I don't know. Depends on how you define hate speech. Are they cheering for the death of Israel? I think so. Are they cheering for the death of America? Some of them. Is that illegal? It's not. Is it detestable? Yes. Not illegal. At the same time, if these protesters are interfering with people, like I just watched a video where they prevented somebody from walking to their class, a Jewish student from walking to their class, that would be a violation of the rules. That should be that's not a violation. That's not a free speech violation. It's a violation of it's interrupting other people's movement, which is a violation of the law. And it's interrupting people's it's interrupting school on that campus. So I think that there's different nuances to this. Like if they said that these protesters were being violent themselves first, or if they were saying that they were harassing, and harassing is a little bit up. I'm not going to go necessarily to harassing, because harassing could be anything. But if they were saying that they were, harming other students, or preventing them from, blocking walkways or any of that stuff, then I would say that they have a point, that they would be able to do this, that they would be able to shut these things down, or at least hold them so that they're not able to do those types of things, like barriers around them. But again, if it's just because of hate speech, then that's not the way to go about it. Let me see. Here's the one from Georgia. This literally just happened, I guess, today. Now, Georgia's like 2 hours away, or like an hour away from me, so I was not making it out there today. I didn't even know about this was going on, but police arrested him.
Off our campus!
Hey, y'all, stay safe back here.
Get off it!
Get off it! Get off of there! Get off of there!
Hey! What is wrong with you? Hey, stop! You just grabbed the motherfucking
Holding by the hoodie! Are you kidding me?
Stay calm.
Back it up.
Who is he?
Back up.
Who is he? In the suit. Answer me. You in the suit. Mustache.
He's complying! He's complying, you pussies! You just hold him by the hoodie. What type of leadership is that?
Eric, you're not a cop. You just assaulted a student.
Eric,
You just assaulted a student.
Do you guys get off on assaulting students?
University of Georgia.
This is the second time this man has touched a student that we've gotten on camera. Second time he touched a student we've gotten on camera. Pulled this man by his hoodie. Shame! Shame!
I don't know what that was going on there. It just seems like they're, arresting. It's funny. So there's these people in green hats. And Tim Pool actually pointed out, like, these are not just observers. These are actually activists. But they're saying that they're observers. And so they can kind of get behind the line. Now, I'll tell you, I was interested to see what happened down at Emory. Now, we do know that there was, if you remember on Thursday, there was the teacher that was arrested at Emory. And that looked bad. That arrest looked bad. But, she so she got arrested. But I went down there and I was with seeing all this stuff. The problem I have is, like, especially since I work for the Post Millennial, I'm also a face online. If I go down there and cover this stuff, I have to blend in. I have to attempt to blend in with the people, because otherwise these people would target me for working with the Post Millennial. Yeah, I didn't see anything at Georgia State. I haven't heard anything about Georgia State. So it's interesting because, yeah, Georgia State has some spots, but they're right down in the city. So I I was thinking about that last week too, but I didn't see anything. I just saw Emory and UGA. But it's like I got to go down there and blend in with these people, and then if somebody hears me say that I work for the Post Millennial, then I basically got to leave, because then I'm I'd be a target. They don't like us very much. So this one was interesting too. You know, I don't like the way that, I mean, I think that Ilhan Omar is anti-Semitic herself, and just the way that she phrased this, you're either pro-genocide or anti-genocide, when she was at Columbia last week, when they asked her about this, it was really an interesting statement that she made. Let me see if I can play this. If you remember, her daughter was actually arrested like the first day at Columbia too. So
I think this will translate to the Jewish students who are facing anti-Semitism here on campus. So I actually met a lot of Jewish students that are in the impact net. And I think it is really unfortunate that people don't care about the fact that all Jewish kids should be kept safe, and that we should not have to tolerate anti-Semitism or bigotry for all Jewish students, whether they are pro-genocide or anti-genocide. Daniel Katz.
Phrasing that as pro-genocide or anti-genocide is not a very accurate way to say that. But here's what I'll say. In a lot of ways, though, I mean, she is this the Ava Klampes. She was right. She's right when she says that's just another way of saying acceptable Jews and non-acceptable Jews. What's crazy is, so for how long have we heard, basically, if you criticize Israel at all, you are labeled if you criticize Israel, you would be labeled anti-Semitic. But that's never really been true, right? So it's not this label, it's not just you're not anti-Semitic just for not wanting to support Israel. And that's what one side has always kind of said. Like, so for me, I like I said, I from the beginning of this thing, I've taken this very nuanced approach to the way that I see this. I think Israel has a right to exist, but I don't support Israel targeting citizens. So Israel is losing the what's the best way to put that? They're losing the conversation. They're losing the campaign on how to actually win hearts and minds, and they're, people are walking away because they see, when Justin Amash's family was killed in Gaza, Christian family was killed in Gaza when they dropped a bomb on a church. I think that turned a lot of people, especially a lot of Christians, away from what Israel's doing. I don't support the way that Israel has gone about this. Honestly, Israel could have gone in and secured Gaza with a ground force very quickly and just taken control of the region, yet they've continued just to bomb and wipe out basically everything that's there. When you start killing innocent people, you lose people, reasonable people, to your cause. So no, I think that at this point I think Israel has to take a step back. They're not winning this. They're not winning this in the hearts and minds of the people across the world. That said, I think that they had a right to defend themselves. What happened on October 7th was one of the worst days in history that I've ever seen. So they absolutely had a right to defend themselves. They had a right to go in. They had a right to go in and wipe out Hamas. I just don't think that they're necessarily just targeting Hamas. So there's a lot of nuance here. So just to say it's pro-genocide or anti-genocide, like, where would you place me? I don't know. Where would you place me? I'm definitely anti-genocide, but I support Israel's right to exist. It's not one or the other. So yeah, I thought that was bad. Next one though. This one's interesting. And in a lot of ways I respect Jill Stein for actually getting out there and going to these protests and standing with students that she feels aligned with. In her statements, and I'll play her statements, but I will say, if her statements could be viewed very much similar to the way what I just said, that Israel has a right to exist. They don't have a right to our money, nor do they have a right to go in and commit mass murder on innocent civilians. They can kill Hamas all they want, but killing innocent civilians is a different story. So, Jill Stein, who is, I'm just gonna say it, she's the Green Party candidate. Okay, she's not going to lose that nomination. Now, if you don't know, I've actually met Jill Stein. I have a picture where I was standing right next to her at the Rage Against the War Machine rally in DC. She was a speaker, and I was you know, the Libertarian Party was also there, and I had, you know, access backstage. So, and Jill Stein is not a very big woman. In fact, she's probably like 5'1", like 100 pounds. I mean, standing next to me, I'm 5'4", and she's a couple inches shorter than me. So she, not a big woman, and to watch the way that the cops treated her. Again, this is Washington University. Now, I guess this is a private university, which is a little bit different story, but here, she was arrested. So another presidential candidate arrested. So that was them walking her off. So here's her statement beforehand.
We're standing here with the students at WashU, standing up for our constitutional rights, standing up for the American people who want an end to this genocide now. And the police are gathered here, and we're going to stand here in line with the students who are standing up for democracy, standing up for human rights, standing up to end genocide. Thank you so much.
And I mean, again, she's part of the Green Party. She's an anti-war activist. When she says that they're standing up for our constitutional rights, I think that that's when she's talking about having free speech. So yeah. I don't think that this one goes into them moving in.
That are having
they're just talking, they're giving what their demands are, standing locked arm in arm. They're not moving forward, they're not doing anything, and then police move in, and I see Jill Stein right here getting hit with a bike. It doesn't look good. That's not a good look on the cop. Honestly, it's not a good look on the police officers that are doing this. It's not. I mean, oh yeah, and Jill Stein was arrested for assaulting a police officer. Like, they were assaulting her, and she gets arrested for assaulting a police officer. Again, it's not a good look in the future.
You get ready. That's his foot. That's his foot.
All they're doing is locked arms. We're not pushing. We're not fighting. So, interesting. This was actually, let's see. Here we go. Share this. This was Jill Stein speaking right after. This was the first interview after she got released.
How long were you in there for? What was it like when you were in the St. Louis County Jail?
It was kind of scary, to tell you the truth, because I got separated from the rest of the crowd, and it initially felt like there was a lot of safety in numbers, but then it turned out that I was being charged with assault after being assaulted by a bicycle and basically thrown onto my head backwards. I was charged with assaulting a police officer. Can you believe it? And so I got separated out, and I was alone going through this whole other process where I was going through a medical exam. I had,
Okay.
could I call my lawyer? So I was just completely and to get on the ballot so that voters could have a choice, so that the American public opposes the genocide, wants an immediate ceasefire and a diplomatic solution. So we want to get that on the ballot. We want a pro-worker campaign to be on the ballot. We want an anti-war campaign and a climate emergency campaign. We are the only campaign that actually represents all of those issues. So we have a lot to fight for to enable the American people to have a choice, and the American people are clamoring for a choice. They don't want these two zombie candidates rammed down their throat again. And by huge majorities, Americans want other choices. So we want to provide that choice. We have to jump through all kinds of hoops for Americans to be able to exercise, basic democracy in the voting booth. Peacefully, and it might have helped delay action, but actually when we were invited, we were asked by the students to join their defense. And to tell you the truth, I felt it would be unconscionable not to do that, because our future really is in their hands. It has always been the role of young people to stand up and really lead the way forward in the civil rights movement, in the environmental justice movement, and so on. And that's what young people are doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, Todd. I think she's, like I said, I've met her. She's a very nice, sweet woman. I don't agree with, obviously, her climate change approach, like the Green Party's approach to climate change and social issues and stuff like that. It's interesting. The three things that she labeled off, I do believe that, the Libertarian Party candidates are kind of in the same boat. We believe, we believe in protecting the environment just in a different way, and free market solutions and unregulating. So that, with like nuclear and stuff like that, libertarians are anti-war. We're probably some of the other ones that are standing up the most against these funding of these wars, and have been for a long time. There is a little bit of a split in what's going on in these areas, but mostly everybody in libertarians are anti-war. I commend her a lot, though. So yeah, she was, to be charged with assault is absolutely insane. And look, it's an activist arrest. They were told to leave and they didn't. Now, if again, it's Washington University, private university, I think that there may be a point to be made there, but that's not the case in a lot of these universities going across the country. Now, where I commend her a lot is that she went there. She was invited. She is a presidential candidate. She could have just stepped on a soapbox and talked about it, but instead she went there, protested herself, for what she thought was right. And you don't see a lot of candidates getting out there and doing that. I know people in the Libertarian Party that have gone out for different protests and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's commendable to just stand up for what you believe in. Now, am I going to vote for her? I don't even know if she's on the ballot here in Georgia. Like, that's part of the problem is I think everybody, like, ballot access is a huge issue. And that's what she said she was going out there for, was to try to get on the Missouri ballot. Because if you don't know how ballot access works, like, they basically, it handcuffs the third parties. They make it almost impossible to get on the ballot. So third parties have almost no shot, and you're stuck with the duopoly candidates. So, am I going to vote for her? Probably not. Do I think she should have been arrested? No, I don't. Do I think that these protests should be shut down the way that they are? No, I don't. Do I think that they should have hit her with a bike? No. Do I agree with what the protesters are necessarily believing in? Not necessarily. So there's a lot of stuff that comes into play with this. There's a lot of nuance there, and just because you may agree or disagree with what they're saying, you have to understand that they have a right to say it, and they have a right to peacefully protest. That's America. That is what we should be acknowledging here in America. And whether it's hate speech or not, our First Amendment is there to protect speech you disagree with. Let me see though. But it is interesting. A lot of these protesters, they don't even know. They don't even know what they're protesting. They're using words that they don't know what they mean. You know, they're just going along with the crowd. I do think that this is just a lot of people that just want to be part of something. It's when you see, and I have the clips of Alex Stein at UT over the weekend getting assaulted. Alex Stein got assaulted again by LGBT activists. But when you see like LGBT for Palestine, it's clear you don't know what you're protesting, because they don't really like gay people in Gaza. So it's crazy to me that people are protesting for that. They don't like gay people. They don't hold pride in Gaza, where Tel Aviv has like the largest pride event in the Middle East, one of the biggest in the world. But this was interesting. So this is just them showing more.
You guys are shouting for intifada. You know what an intifada is? What is it? What is an intifada? You guys are proud of shouting for intifada? Yeah? Woo!
So if you don't know, an intifada is just a mass civil uprising against the state. So if they're calling for it, that's what they're talking about. But they don't know that. They would never know that. Let me see. Yep. And here's the Alex Stein video. We'll just play this, and this will be the last thing we do. So I have some other stuff on here, just talking about Trump, Biden, Trump. Biden said he would debate Trump. Trump challenged him to a debate right after, Friday night at the courthouse. After his trial, they would debate. MSNBC had a meltdown because they know that they don't want Biden to debate Trump, because it would show his weaknesses, that he's cognitively not able to withstand a debate with Trump. And Trump is winning heavily with the economy. 34% approve of the job that Joe Biden's doing on the economy. 66% disapprove, which is a huge deal. But here's the Alex Stein clip.
We're here at UT Austin, where I just got assaulted by transgender pro-Palestine people. I didn't realize gay for Palestine was actually real. But watch this video. Hey, can I ask you a question? When Palestine, aren't they mean to trans people? Aren't they mean to trans people? We're here at UT Austin, and trans people are out here protesting for Palestine, but don't Palestinians throw gay people off roofs?
Hey, sir, can you please do?
Yeah, no, I'm just going to hang out right here. Can anybody tell me do they do any pride parades?
Get the fuck out of here.
Dude, what are you going to do about it? You guys are all idiots. You guys are transgenders, but you guys aren't even allowed to be in Palestine. I know, but you know what?
See, like those people should probably be arrested for physically assaulting somebody. Yeah, I mean, Alex Stein's a little crazy. So, but yeah, those people should be arrested for assaulting him, and him defending himself, asking questions. That's what reporters do. I mean, he's not I wouldn't necessarily consider it reporting, but you know, the last thing about these protesters, did you know? Experts are now claiming that it's COVID. It's the COVID lockdowns are to blame for nationwide Gaza camp protests. Now, I had a hard time thinking about how I wanted to write this one, because they're basically saying, actually, where's the expert that we quoted? A psychologist said the protests may feel angry for the pandemic taking away pivotal, highly anticipated experiences for them. For example, socialization in college and missing graduations, and thus they are protesting as a way to release their anger. Are they saying that COVID lockdowns were a bad idea because it caused mental health issues that people are still not able to recover from? I find this ridiculous. The whole notion to blame these protests on COVID. But at the same time, I kind of agree that like COVID lockdowns caused some mental health issues in people and they're not able to recover. I don't know if they necessarily correlate, but I think it's I don't know which way to go with this one. I'm kind of taking it in because I think it's both ridiculous and possibly accurate. I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think? This one says the pro-Palestinian. So friends, this said told the outlet that the pro-Palestinian cause has allowed youth to express long withheld rage. It's given them the opportunity to identify with the oppressed against the oppressors. See, this is the one that's really interesting, because when the oppressed versus the oppressors, and that's what we always talk about critical theory, right? So in critical theory, in all critical theories, they create the oppressed class versus the oppressed class. And so instead of them now identifying into a trans label to be oppressed, they are now able to identify with Palestinians. They're transracial. Or they're just, yeah. they're using that to identify. They are identifying with the Palestinians, who they see wrongfully as oppressed people. Hey, if this gets them to stop claiming, self-ID trans identities, we'll be good with that. Just like to go back to living my life and doing shows like this and not have to talk about being trans all the time. Oh yeah, remember? Yeah, so remember in protesting COVID lockdowns would spread COVID, but protesting for BLM did not spread COVID. Remember? That was I think that's what turned so many people against the lockdowns in the government, was because it was like, how are you going to be so you completely lose all your values when it comes to protesting for your social cause? Yeah. But all right, y'all. Let me see. I'm going to see. But all right, y'all. Thanks for joining. This was fun. We went a little bit over, which is always good. Well, thanks, Todd. So Todd says, not gonna lie, more trans content from you would be cool because you are so based on it, and there's not a lot of voices out there like that. Thank you. Yeah, y'all know. I don't like talking about the trans content, which is probably why my channel's not growing as fast. I honestly, it just mentally it's exhausting. So I would rather be doing content that I really think matters rather than the content that that's going to get me views. So, but I mean, I can definitely start. I'm definitely still going to talk the issues and continue to bring you side videos on trans issues that I find important to talk about, like the Title IX stuff, trans women and women's sports. It's not going away. I just wish I didn't have to talk about it so much. I just wish I didn't have to talk about it so much. Yeah, Ronnie, you're at the end of the show. But thanks for joining. I definitely appreciate it. Definitely go watch the full show. But again, I do want to say thank y'all for watching. And I will see you next time.